Broken into the pop star politician's vehicle and taken him into custody. Wine, real name Robert Chagulanyi, is standing against President Yoweri Museveni in a January presidential election.
Army trucks drove through Kampala, randomly killing Ugandans. Over the course of the 2 days, the 18th and 19th of November, over 100 unarmed Ugandans were killed. Right through the presidential campaigns, there were several attempts on Bobi Wine's life. On the election day, January 14, 2021, opposition agents were beaten up, arrested and tortured, while NRM officials continued to stuff ballot boxes. A total internet shutdown was ordered, and on the 18th of January, the Electoral Commission released its results. But the numbers didn't add up. Ugandans protested the fraud, but they only have their bare hands to fight French tear gas grenades shot from Dutch-supplied SUVs. They have to face British and American-trained soldiers armed with Israeli weapons using munitions produced in Italy. Those who stand up for democracy are tortured in prisons funded by the EU. Museveni was yet again proclaimed the winner. But the violence against the opposition continued, and so-called drones started to arrest and abduct opposition members. 2 members of parliament were picked up and thrown into jail on the basis of fake charges.
The pickup truck managed to cut off Malende's vehicle right at the intersection before the express highway, where the Joint Anti-Terrorism Unit officers then disembarked and muscled Segirinya out of Malende's vehicle and packed him into their drone. All the while, the officers cocked their guns and pointed them at journalists, screaming at them to go away.
PEN International Right of Courage, Kakwenza Rukira Basaija, was arrested and tortured by the regime's special forces. Kakwenza was denied medical attention and legal assistance. How much longer will the world accept this injustice?
Hi, Comrade Dorcas. Do we have any more videos to play?
Yes, I will have Joseph Kableta, and then we'll be starting shortly.
So can we stream that one? Is that one that we can stream?
Yes, even the previous one was okay to do so. Thank you so much. If we can start streaming, I'll share Kableta right now. Thank you. And then we'll get started.
What I found interesting going around the country is that Uganda is the only country where you go and people would be inclined to vote for you if you promise to take them back to where they once were. Can you imagine? Which means we wasted 36 years. If you are going to tell people that if I will take you back to the days of cooperatives, to the days when our education was very respected across the region and people came from all over to study in Uganda, I will take you back to the days, you know, of proper marketing, of when hospitals were actually health centers and not death traps. I'll take you to the days when our people were not being taken for slavery in the Middle East. I'll take you back to those. Somehow, even the people who have grown up in this regime think that that is utopia. Has it ever existed? It actually did once. There was a time when systems worked. When people would go and sell their coffee and all they are given is a note, a promissory note that they will be paid for their coffee. And guess what? They would be paid. Because systems work. Now you try doing that right now. By the way, now that coffee thing, that woman who they gave the coffee industry is an arms dealer. She sold illegal arms to this government, and the coffee thing is a way of paying her using taxpayers' money. Now you go and say Kableta told you that, and it is the truth. She's an arms dealer. She doesn't know anything about coffee. She knows as much about coffee as I know about the anatomy of a penguin or something like that. She doesn't know anything about coffee. She's just an arms dealer. So they are doing their deals. And somehow, these people in parliament started writing promissory notes to her, isn't it? You wrote a promissory note that they would pay her money without any money. But the promissory notes became money before even any coffee has been exported and so on. So anyhow, that's because of one small thing. Those people actually really believe they own the country. And we are just squatters. They are completely convinced the country is theirs. Now when you see Uganda, for them they divide it. This one belongs to this member of this family. This one belongs to the other one. This one belongs to the other one. I was somewhere in Rwenzori and somebody was telling me how, you know, for us in our party, you know those. I told him, you're chairman LC5. Half of your district is owned by one person who is not even from that district. That person is Muhozi. Now, he's not even from that district. He owns half of your district. And you come here and tell me you're chairman LC5. What kind of chairman LC5 are you? You're just occupying an office. My point is, we have to stand up and actually be serious people. The people that we are contending with think they own Uganda. They actually absolutely think they own Uganda. When they want your piece of land, they will come and make it a national forest reserve. They will put boundaries there and say this is a forest reserve or a game reserve or something. As soon as it is taken away without any compensation for you, then somebody who is connected comes and takes it. That's how Muhozi got half of that district. I won't mention it. Okay? They come and say this is a game reserve. The next thing is rearing his cattle there. But I'm telling you this, Matemba has gone. But I'm telling you that project is not going to work. We are not fools. Okay? We are not fools. The fact that we are doing all these things, and now everybody who loves this country, people are joining us. Even people who were disinclined to it before, they realize that we are serious, and they are joining us. And some of them are not even here. Some of them cannot even come and associate with us publicly because they have other, alignments somewhere, some parties which they represent, but they are with us, and we welcome them. And we welcome everybody who loves Uganda, even those from that yellow party, because they are also slaves like everybody else. You see, Malcolm X brought the term of house slave and field slave, and he said that there are slaves who are called house slaves. For them, they work inside the house, they prepare tea for the boss, they clean clothes and so on. So when the boss has tea, they also have some leftover tea. If there is a piece of bread that is left, they also eat bread that day. Now, for them, they are a higher class of slaves, but they're also slaves. Then they are different from the field slaves. The field slaves are the ones who work in the sun and come and they are famished and they don't have all these privileges. But all of them are slaves. So even I'm telling some of our colleagues in that yellow party, that party is about a family. It's not about Uganda. That party was created to keep one family in power. So if you're not a member of that family, you're a slave. You might be a field slave, which means you eat some bread here, you eat some milk here, if the boss has some is left over. If the flask of tea comes when it is halfway, you drink the rest, but you're a slave. So even them, we shall also welcome them if they want to run away from, because we are all fighting to take ourselves out of slavery. That's where we are. We are fighting for the next generation so that our children don't say, where were you when all these lands were taken? What did you do when this country went to the dogs the way it did? What input did you have when everything turned out the way it is? Now they have everything, as far as they are concerned, everything is done. They are now preparing to hand over. Oh my God, I have a surprise for them. We are not going down that path.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, good night for some. Salute you all wherever you're joining us from. David, sorry, the mic. Are you okay to speak? Have you got the mic? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Comrade Dorcas, for those videos. Good afternoon to all those of you who are joining us on this session of Speak Up, Uganda is Bleeding. An exciting day we have lined up for you, those of you who have listened to the videos and those of you who are joining us on the different platforms. Welcome to this session, and please feel free to click on the link that's on the description of the videos and you can come and join us and participate fully in the session we're about to hold. Before we start, I'd like to invite Desmond, Comrade Desmond, good to see you. Please, are you able to unmute yourself and join us and lead us in a word of prayer? Comrade Desmond, if you're there and available and ready, please, can you join us? Failing that, Dorcas, you're quite good at these things. Why don't you lead us in a word of prayer, please?
Okay, I see Comrade Desmond is ready. Desmond, you have the mic. Thank you, David.
Sorry, this technology. It's so lovely to see you all. Okay, so lovely to see you all. I just want to say thank you. David, it's good to see you back in your attire. Let's pray. Father in heaven, we just want to thank you. We thank you for the beautiful sunshine we have in this country at the minute. And I would just want to thank you that it can enlighten our hearts. And at the same time, we know our heart is broken for our country, Uganda. And we know very well, you know very well what is happening in Uganda. And we just want to lift that country into thy hands. And we pray that, Lord, you'll deliver that country from the evil one. And we pray for our people, our family members, brothers and sisters who are in prison. We pray that, Lord, they will receive justice. And Father, we pray that for those who are in hospitals, we pray that you bring healing to their body. And Father, we just want to pray that you'll help us Ugandans to open our eyes and give us the courage to rise up and take our country and out of the evil hands. And I just want to pray for this session that, Lord, you'll be with us, keep us all safe from all those intruders. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Comrade Desmond. Welcoming all those of you who are joining us on this platform directly here on Zoom. And today we are streaming on a number of platforms. So we're on Facebook, our normal channels through JB Mwonge. And we are also available on YouTube. And I believe there's a stream that's being sent to TikTok in some way, shape or form. So all those of you who are joining us in the different platforms, please click on the link. Come and join us here on the Zoom channel where you'll be able to engage with the session that we have. I'm just going to invite Comrade Dorcas to say a quick word or two, and then we'll proceed with a word from Joe, and then we'll be ready to introduce our session for the afternoon. Thank you so much. Over to you, Comrade Dorcas.
Thank you so much, Comrade David. Good to see you, looking so good. Yes, I welcome each and every one of you. Friends to Uganda, Ugandans, you are welcome to today's session. Today is the 28th of May, 2022. I'd like to say a big, massive thank you to you all that are joining us and those that will be listening in at some point in the day. Thank you so much. Well, like you've listened to the audios, and for those that are not aware of what is happening in Uganda, we facing brutality, all orchestrated by the dictator, Museveni himself. And we on this platform hold an online protest every Saturday, I'm going to say religiously, because we still haven't yet attained what it is we had planned to achieve. We intend to achieve our freedoms. We have to have our freedoms reinstilled in Uganda, human rights, democracy above all. So that is why we are here on this platform, not just to lament, but to chart our way forward and ensure that we get free indeed. And one of the, that is why today we are launching the masterclass. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm sure, David, you'll tell us more about this masterclass that we're launching. So I really hope people are coming in to get re-energized, get equipped, because knowledge is power and the people need this knowledge. And who is going to liberate us? Us, the people. And who are the people? You who are watching, everyone on ground in Uganda, those in the diaspora, you're the people. And together, people power can see us through. Thank you so much, David. I give you back the mic. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Dorcas. Good to hear from you. Good to be back. Although that said, I haven't really been away. I have been around just in the background. So good to see you. I see lots of you here joining us this afternoon. So good to see you. Fatu, Florence, Comrade Hadija, Joe, and of course, we've got our guest presenter for the afternoon, Eric. James, William, good to see you. And all those of you, Madways, Modi, Rosie, Simon. Always good to get together and join in and keep ourselves motivated towards the struggle. I believe we have a few minutes for Comrade Joe to give us an update on the situation in the Middle East. For those of you who will know, who may not know, Joe has been involved working industriously to free girls who have been held in what can least be explained or described as subhumane conditions. So, Joe, thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for holding the ring all the while. Please, could you unmute yourself and just give us a quick update on the situation with the girls in the Middle East? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Comrade David. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to our listeners from wherever you're tuning in from. David, good to see you again. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Dorcas, and the members of our team. Yes, we are an outreach group, part of Uganda's Bleeding, and we are running an anti-human trafficking rescue or outreach organization. Our catchment area is the Middle East, that is Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Jordan, name it. So the Middle East, basically. And our objectives really are just to fight for the rights and welfare of the Middle East migrant workers. So what we do, we offer training or some kind of induction about living and working in the Middle East. Our workers' rights, we try to explain the legalities around contracts. We try to drill them in the workers' rights so that they know what workers' rights are really about. And in particular, we look at contracts, legal issues or legalities surrounding contracts. So our training, our teaching is really about empowering the migrant workers so that they're able to navigate the kafala system, which is inherently evil and exploitative. But, that is where they find themselves. So how do they survive? How do they navigate the system, which is very evil? To date, we've been able to save over 45 girls, counting. Of course, some situations have been very challenging. I can just give you a few examples. Somebody could be, for example, might face verbal, physical, psychological abuse or torture. Of course, not that any type of torture is better than the other, but this even sometimes includes sexual harassment or sexual violence against our girls. It could be withholding of salaries. It could be deliberate starvation, people getting sick and not receiving medical treatment or being denied access to medical treatment. So these are some of the evils that we come across. It's just a myriad of problems, really, so to say. But these problems have a bearing on the mental health of the people. So many of them end up really being traumatized. And of course, they need counseling and things like that. So what has our work, what are the outcomes? What is the impact? I think today, Ugandan migrant workers are more assertive in claiming their workers' rights and workers' space. That is a positive thing. And what this is doing is in a way creating shockwaves amongst the employers. Employers are now beginning to give the respect that our citizens, our brothers and sisters deserve and are entitled to. That is a change. Recruitment agencies are also changing their behavior. They're taking on Ugandans seriously and they're beginning to respect their rights. But even the government of Uganda, that is the NRM government, I think you've heard Museveni himself standing and disowning his own externalization policy that in effect has been turning Ugandans into modern slaves. What does he say? Because we've exposed the dangers, we've exposed the problems that the government is inept, is just incapable of solving. They've been named, they've been shamed, so Museveni doesn't want to associate with this evil system. I think that is very, very positive. But above all, and this is really, really important, the government of Saudi Arabia, for example, has started doing what they call a census of migrant workers. What they're doing is auditing the workers' rights, the compliance rates as far as the employers are concerned. This is still cosmetic, but I think pushing them to this level to do something shows that we're not just wasting our time. And that's why we call upon you, ladies and gentlemen, to support us in our campaign. Our objective now is to run this campaign for 6 months, and then we really want to bring a bill of this labor policy externalization that will look closely at the rights. For example, they earn 900 riyal, while their counterparts earn between 2,000 and 2,500 riyal. That is an equivalent of 2 million and 2.5 million Ugandan shillings. So the question is, how did the government of Uganda arrive at this figure of 900? It's just an arbitrary kind of Museveni decided. And he does this purely to keep Ugandans in poverty and in deprivation, even as they're working in the Middle East. So these are some of the things that we want to review, but above all, to really improve the workers' rights. So support us. Our hashtag campaign is hashtag Free UG Girls. That is what is happening. But I will not end by just mentioning one girl who has really been caught up in the system of active human trafficking. Her names are Romini Naluyima. She's been in captivity. She was in captivity for about 9 months, and then the employer handed her over. I think on trumped up charges. So she's now in prison, and this is purely because we flagged this case way back in February to the embassy in Riyadh, to the government, plus even including reaching out to Bet Amon, but they did nothing. Now this girl who is a victim ends up in prison. And these are some of this is just a travesty of justice. So we need to fight for the freedom of our brothers and sisters. That is, I think, my brief submission as far as our outreach mission is concerned. Thank you, David. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Joe, and of course the team working with you on the whole situation in the Middle East, Dorcas, and of course King Assad, who I think right at the start of this initiative took the challenge to see what we can do. And the kind of work that Joe has been involved in shows you what activism can do. This is just an idea that came out of pleas from our sisters in the Middle East who joined these platforms and started expressing their concerns about the situation in Uganda. And like Joe has said, government did not take any notice of it until activists, people like me, you, Joe, Dorcas, and people decided to take the initiative and start to engage and make sure they're standing for their rights. If we can do that in a place so far away, imagine what we can do for our country, Uganda. And that is the reason why we gather here today and every day, every Saturday, to reinforce our belief in delivering a free, true, democratic country. So this afternoon, we've got a session like Dorcas alluded to. What is the beginning of a series of sessions titled Revolution Masterclass. These sessions are going to be delivered for us on a weekly basis. And our presenter for the session, the person who's come up with all these sessions, is Eric van der Zanden. So Eric, for those of you who may have attended our People Power Academy sessions on informing, educating, and empowering will remember that Eric led sessions around non-violent activism. And Eric is a strategist of peaceful revolutions in Africa. Just by way of background, he's the author of the book, The Unfinished Revolution, which looks at how African nations have become underdeveloped and how the youth can change this using peaceful means. These are just the role. I mean, I probably am not in the bracket of youths, but I still consider myself to be quite youthful. But the plea goes out and the call goes out to each one of you. Imagine how much of an impact you can make if you embrace the challenge that is before you and commit yourself to the struggle. And obviously, being here every Saturday is a step in the right direction. And so we hope during the course of the next coming weeks that we've got these sessions, we can continue to empower you with more practical tools on how you can lead little teams to start standing up for what is right in a way that is safe, that doesn't necessarily directly challenge the oppressor, but gets your message across. And so Eric has got quite a number of useful strategies, tools, and approaches that we can use. So I really recommend that whoever is here, as part of your commitment to this session, I would ask each one of you between now and the next sort of 30 seconds to invite one person who you believe will find a session on re-energizing the struggle, giving yourself with, the right tools, knowledge, strategies to deliver peaceful struggle, to invite one more person to come and join us in this session. So I'll give you a few seconds to do that whilst you go off on your social media contacts and invite people. But also I'd like to remind those of you who are joining us on the different platforms that we're streaming on, click on the link at the bottom of that video and come in and join us. Come in and join us and let's hear you engage with Eric van der Zanden. Now, before we proceed, we all know what's happened in Omoro just a few days ago, but it should not come as a surprise. If anything, the precedent has been set from the general elections in 2021 to the Kayunga elections. These people are not going to budge regardless of what you throw at them. If you throw them the democratic processes, we know, like we saw in the video from Museveni, that is a way of legitimizing his rule. People rig elections right across the world, including in the USA. So it is not a surprise that they will use every tool they can to try and legitimize their hold on power. So we're aware that this is a long journey. We're aware that sometime along the way, people might feel deflated, but we want to take a gauge of what it feels like. You as an activist, you who is probably going to engage people on the ground, you who is going to stand up for democracy in Uganda, we want to take a gauge right now as we stand post Omoro. What is your gauge? How would you gauge your sense of optimism in using peaceful means? So we're going to launch a poll that I'd really like each one of you to participate in. And what we would like to do is get you to answer this. I believe you should have one answer. But the question is very simple, and just be honest with yourself. We understand that there are peaks and troughs, ebbs, morale and motivation, ebbs and flows, and that's the reason why as a group you're able to re-energize people at their lowest, but at the same time ensure that you continue working towards an end objective. So on the scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your morale in the sense of optimism of using peaceful means to deliver a free democratic Uganda? And I think the reason why this is really useful to take a temperature check at this stage is because we're coming out of a situation where we may feel quite helpless, but that is exactly why we gather here every Saturday, because those of you who feel helpless, that is absolutely right for you to do so. But please, let's continue to engage in the process and let's see how we can get people more activated, arm them with the tools, equipment, tools and strategies so that we can deliver true democratic society. Good to see the people responding to these, the poll that is out there. Keep on, that's going to run for a bit, but keep on responding and let's express ourselves. There's 29 of you here. I'd love to see at least a good percentage of you responding. Just give us your own view. It's anonymous, and it just gives us a temperature check of where we are as activists, which is really important. It is really important for leadership in ongoing struggles, protracted struggles, to ensure that people's morale is kept at the optimum level. But that is a fact that it is a fact that morale will dip. And what do you do to get people re-energized? Which brings me to the NUP conference that is being held in Amsterdam over the end of June, the start of July, purely based on this topic. How do we re-energize the struggle? We'll be sharing a bit more information of that, and I'd urge those of you who are in the diaspora to engage and try and make sure you're available, and there's a bonus for you in terms of a conference by His Excellency. I'm conscious we're running out over time, but we've got the rest of the 2 hours. So Comrade Eric, I'd love to hand over to you. We've done quite a bit of speaking, but I'm sure the people who are here would love to hear from you. Yes, please continue responding to the poll that we've got, and that, like I said, is going to be a temperature check for our morale right now, and we'll hope to carry on after Eric has carried these sessions over the course of the next coming weeks. That said, I would like to use this opportunity to invite Comrade Eric to unmute himself, turn on his camera, and lead us in this session of the first session, which I believe is the power of peace. I might be corrected, but please, Eric, the microphone is yours. Please, over to you. We are keenly waiting to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for organizing. I will first share my screen and then directly delve into the presentation of today. So I think the presentation is working, correct?
Yeah, we can see. Thank you.
Perfect. So also, most of you know myself as Erik van der Zanden. However, always when I was in Uganda, my friends, they called me Onyango. So feel free to also use my Ugandan name in that sense when we talk to each other. I will tell a bit more about the power of peace today. And before I delve into why we're going to need a masterclass, Revolution Masterclass, and why we need to know more about the power of peace, I would like to tell you a story. So this is a story from the United States. There was segregation. Black people were unable to come to restaurants or other public spaces in that specific space, Nashville. However, a group of students, they organized themselves, and out of the blue, for the outside world, they started to sit in restaurants. So they were just going inside, sitting at the counter, waiting to be served. Of course, this was illegal because the segregation system, and they knew this. However, they kept sitting, and then when the white people of the town started getting very angry of this defiance, of this disobedience, they started to burn cigarettes in them, throw milk, abuse them. Very importantly, it was captured by the media, by the local paper. When they wrote a story about it, something powerful happened, because now it were just students sitting in those restaurants. But because of this violence used by the white citizens of the town, the whole Black community, they got enraged. They stood up, they started to arise as a community. And because of this, they started to say, how can we do something about the system? How can we do something about the injustice within our town? So first of all, they started to organize boycotts. We said, we're not going to these segregated restaurants anymore. So the Black community, they massively stayed away from local downtown. What happens is that nobody was coming to the restaurants, and the owners, of course, their main goal is to make revenue, to make a profit. When nobody is buying, they started to losing out, to become frustrated, to ask for help with the police or the mayor. However, the Black community remained resilient. They remained strategic, and they became even more powerful in staying away. Secondly, what happened is, because of this oppression by the state, more and more members of the Black community, not only the students, they started to march to say segregation is wrong. But a very powerful thing happened. It were not only Blacks anymore, also other citizens that were somehow tried to ignore the situation because of this dramatization of the activists, of the campaigns by the Black community, they started to feel, indeed, this is not how we can organize our community. Segregation is wrong. So they also started to march. And in the third picture at the right side, you see that it became a complete mix of the city of Nashville that said segregation, we can no longer accept it. And indeed, the mayor said segregation is wrong, we're going to change it. So just by this example of some students getting into the restaurants, using activism, but most importantly, they reacted to the violence. Instead of the violence, they didn't fight back. They didn't become fearful. They didn't run away. They just stayed defiant in the same position. And the more violence was used against them, the bigger the community came that followed them. So it was their endurance of that violence that made this change. And that led to the revolution of Nashville, one of the most inspirational cases of how a peaceful revolution can work out. So how was this possible that it took place? Before those sit-in actions of the students, for months, for several weeks on a weekly basis, they had been trained by James Lawson, a friend of Martin Luther King, which was sent to the South to start training because he had been in India. He had received training from Gandhi and to also immerse himself in Gandhian practices of civil disobedience. So he was sent to the South to start training the students and in that way give knowledge so they become able to resist and to defy the injustices of the segregation. Every week they came together. At the beginning, he started his training sessions with about 20 minutes about information. And afterwards, they had also an hour role playing. So they were one of the students, they had to act like a white citizen or a police officer, and the other was the Black student. And they were role playing how do you respond to violence? So one of the group, they were really pushing, they were burning cigarettes. One of the students, they had to act like, I hear echo, I'm not sure if that's, I will continue. And then because of this training, they became very nonviolent. They knew exactly how to become, how to resist for the moment that there was violence. They became very strategic. They had a very good planned out. How can we change the situation? And also they were really focused, how can we speak to the louder community? How can we create as big community as possible to arise and to stand up? So that's what we're going to do in this revolution. Because why do we need a revolution masterclass? All Ugandans, by now they know about the vision of Museveni. He told it again in the national address last weekend. His vision is to exploit the Ugandan nation and become rich himself, or for a very small minority, the family, to just enjoy the system. So also in Uganda, we know the injustice. However, how we have been fighting that injustice has been through the constitutional methods. We have been trying to change how to organize a revolution within the system. And what are those constitutional methods? One is elections or courts or parliaments who have been trying through the same script the government has organized for us. They can plan, they can prepare. We have tried to play by the rules that they control. So in the end, even for an election, they can rig it. For a court, they can just bribe the judges. For parliament, they can just arrest the parliament members or somehow control it. So we have been trying to resist and trying to use disobedience within the controlled ways of the state. In that sense, also really sabotaging ourselves. So again, as David was saying, in the elections, every election, again, we see the same thing happening. However, because we continue in the same constitutional methods, we get some hope, and then we become disappointed. And this is an endless vicious cycle of disappointment, resentment, distrust, fear, and also hopelessness, because people, they start to believe maybe we are not able to liberate ourselves. Maybe there's no way how we can do it, or maybe we need to turn to violence. In the Revolution Masterclass, we will delve into how we can liberate ourselves. For it, we need to organize to understand several things. So here you see one of the miniatures. More are coming. I'm in the process, so none of them are still complete, but that will help us in the role-playing sessions afterwards, and also to immerse into the potential of to simulate protest. So what is power? Most people believe power is the ability to dominate somebody else, to let a different person do against their own will, by using force, by using fear, by somehow making yourself unequal, so to create the impression that they have to obey you. However, this is just one part of power. The second part is the power within. Imagine we have the high commodity prices. Lina, activist, she feels within herself an anger and a frustration. This is an unjust situation. She's also not afraid anymore, and she wants to do something about it. So she feels this vision and this inner power to do something about it. So she stands up, she arises, and she goes to a church, to an online meeting, to any place, anywhere in Uganda, to protest about the current situation. The second part is if she's standing there on the street and she's voicing this inner power, somebody else, like the other activist, Stella, she can see it and feels inspired because she feels the same way. She's also not unafraid, and she also stands up. So now this is power with, and that's based on consent. Instead of dominion, you move forward because you agree on something. Because a lot of people feel with conflict that conflict is something bad, but conflict itself is neutral. Conflict is just that you have two opposite opinions, and instead of fighting over that you cannot disagree, you can also with consent find the golden way, the middle ground, that both of you are satisfied. So instead of a zero sum, one has to lose for the other to win, you find a solution that both win. And then the fourth part of power is the power to. So this is when you stand up and then you have the power to change something. So in this case, with the police officer, let's call him Afande, he is there employed by the state because he's also hungry. His wife is at home. They don't have gas for transport. He has his job, which he needs to protect the rule of law, but he's also in a way unsatisfied. Then the next thing that comes when people stand up and they arise is that the state has a way to react to it. Because when people start to disobey, of course, when enough people start to disobey, then nobody is listening to them anymore. They are losing their power. So they're trying to gain back that power. They do this by the domination. They use violence, for example, by creating fear, by creating sanctions. So people go back to the houses, start to obey again. However, the most interesting part of this confrontation is what happens when both Lina and Stella, they are not afraid. The police officer starts beating them, but they still remain defiant. They remain in their place. They say, we will not go home until we have justice. The police starts using violence. However, somebody is capturing it on a video. That video that goes viral, and it's not because one important part is the defiance. They remain there. However, they do not surrender, they do not flee, but they also do not use violence. So they're definitely the good guys. A lot of Ugandans will agree these guys are just. However, when the police officer is using violence, a lot of people will agree this is not justified violence. It will be a different story if Lina and Stella will be throwing stones or damaging the shops or in any way use violence, or maybe really shout at the police officer to say you are a complete fool, you cannot do anything. But instead of being very angry on the police officer, they are angry on the unjust situation and they remain non-violent towards the police officer. So when the police officer is using violence and it goes viral, what happens next is that Lina and Stella are no longer alone. Maybe they've been from political parties and they have been working with the parties, but all Ugandans, they are facing this extreme high commodity prices. They are all suffering from hunger. So no longer only NUP or FTC will rise to defy and to resist. All political parties that will join in. Even NRM supporters they are also part of the Ugandans facing the same injustice. And because of this violence used by the state and the fearlessness of the activists, they start to join in. And in that sense, it's very powerful that violence backfires, because if you remain defiant against violence and you invoke others to join, that's the moment that the more violence the state will be using, the more people will come out to resist. It will unite the people themselves. And for this, we need to understand how can we gain victory within a peaceful revolution. So there are two sides. You have the people and you have the regime. Between those two groups, between the regime and the people, you have a lot of groups. These can be media houses, it can be NUP, it can be FDC, but it can also be a church in Kampala or a school in Entebbe. All these sort of different groups, they are a group of different people. And at the moment, they might be neutral, they might support the regime, they might support the people, but are still passive. And what we're trying to do in a peaceful revolution, we're trying to pull the groups towards the side of the people. Of course, the regime is also trying to pull them to their side by fear, by propaganda, by somehow misinformation. But if we can succeed in pulling the groups towards the side of the people, and we do this by nonviolent defiance, that's how we can how we can mobilize all of Ugandans against the state. So this is also, you don't have to work within the controlled systems. You don't have to use elections. You don't have to use court. You don't have to use the parliament. The only thing you need to do is to use activism and to rise up and somehow show your discontent. There are about 350 peaceful revolution tactics that you can use. For example, in cases of high repression, like now in Uganda, where protest is very dangerous, you can also use acts of omission. So you don't go to the streets, but you take back your power. For example, the factories, people somehow find a way to move slowly or in a way obstruct, or people within the government themselves, they might start missing forms that it becomes more difficult to oppress people. And also the main core point then of the Peaceful Revolution Masterclass is how we're going to empower ourselves to disobey. And one of the crucial things is present in Uganda's society is the fear. And because of the fear, people are unable to resist, to stand up, to disobey. But if we start to overcome that fear, in the next sessions, we will find out how more people are able to disobey. And when enough people disobey, when enough people join Stella and Lina, when they also say, okay, we no longer continue with the state plans until we have justice, revolution becomes a possibility. So in this, you're always trying to pull the population to your side. So you don't pull the population by insulting them, by creating distrust, by in other ways moving them from you. Because if you pull them from yourself, if you use violence in your words, or you create distrust, or you accuse them of something, you pull them to the side of the opponent. However, in all our actions, we should always try to put them to our side, because that's the main goal of a revolution. And also very important is that the struggle in the peaceful revolution, the means are as important as the goal. In a violent revolution, you also want justice, you want to gain victory, but in that process, with violence, you kill the opponent. Even when you win that revolution, in the end, your opponents will also not be satisfied. There will be resentment or they will be bitter. However, if you use non-violent means throughout the goal, you also make it possible for them to join you. For example, a very important part of peaceful revolution is defections. That in Sudan, they were protesting on the streets, and instead of the soldiers shooting at the people, when they got an order to shoot, they start shooting in the air because they were defecting. They were still being a soldier, but they were also defecting to the side of the people. They were getting the loyalties of the people. This was only possible because the people remained non-violent. If they would have used some violence, then they create the image of enemies. It really creates tension with the police officers, so they feel more defensive. However, when they're completely non-violent, always reaching out, always trying to pull them to their side, also the soldiers, slowly by slowly, they will join the people by siding with their goals. And when that moment comes, when enough defections from the regime go to the people, soldiers start shooting, stop shooting, the police officers, they stop arresting people. That's the moment that the dictatorship really falls down, without an election, without courts, or without parliament. So this is really the essence of people power, and this is what we will delve into with the Revolution Masterclass. Thank you. I also have an assignment for next week. Because of this non-violent approach, I would invite you to, if you have a conflict, so you disagree with somebody on anything, try to resolve this conflict in a peaceful way, to train yourself in how can you still get what you want without being violent. So how can you, instead of trying to make people fear you or in a way force you, that's based on content that they will follow you. Furthermore, I've also included the Nashville video. It's also on my Facebook. I will share the presentation where you can study yourself this Nashville video, as it's very insightful to gain more insight with this peaceful revolution. So that's the presentation for now. And before I wanted to go on, I wanted to ask, based on this insight of the peaceful revolution, are there activists among us that believe that the controlled methods through election, through court, or through parliament can still liberate us? Or do you think indeed we should find a new way? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comrade Eric, for that insightful introduction into peaceful revolutions. I am sure that all those of you who are here have picked bits and pieces, but we are trying, this is recorded and it's going to be available for you to revisit. There's lots of stuff in there that Eric has started to unpack. But for me, and it would be really useful to hear from all those of you who are here, your thoughts, because we'd like to open this to a session. Of course, there's the question that Eric has raised around, do we still believe the controlled mechanisms or the existing mechanisms that are controlled by the regime can still deliver peaceful change or democratic change? That's a question that I'd love to hear responses to. So you are all able to raise your hands and give your thoughts on that. But I'd also like to hear your thoughts on some of the nuggets that you've picked up from what Comrade Eric has shared with us today. So yes, if you'd like to speak, we will give you have the opportunity to raise your hand, and I'm sure we'll work out, if you need your camera on for whatever reason, we'll give you the chance to raise your hand and turn your camera on. But for me, the powerful statement is in the last slide that Eric shared, which is the regime only has power because people obey. And people obey because they fear, because of repressive tactics that the regime uses. But once we overcome that fear, then people are able and empowered to disobey. And once enough people disobey, you have a revolution. It is a fact that what we see happening in Uganda can only happen once the masses get behind the idea that we can actually deliver a free Uganda through peaceful means, and the peaceful means, non-violent means, is an important bit. But like we say, we've seen questions, we've seen people challenging whether really non-violent mechanisms can deliver change. I like to think of it in terms of your current space. I like to think that if military action to change dictatorships or to change leadership was so easy, then Russia would have achieved its objective in a couple of hours. And that is the world's second largest army against a regime that wasn't necessarily preparing for regime change. They had an objective to change the regime. So we start to be practical about what can we do as ourselves. Violent means are protracted. The cost, like Eric said, is cost in terms of damage to infrastructure, damage to lives, but of course no one feels the loser. There's no loser. The loser feels that they've been treated unfairly, and that's the reason why we're in the situation we're in. The people who are in power fought to get to power, and will fight to keep power. Conscious that we're heading towards 3 o'clock in the next 20 or so seconds, where we will be holding a minute of silence, and then we will open the floor to all those of you who are here. And of course, we've got a Comrade Hadija who is taking over the second hour of the session. So in the next 8 seconds, I'd like us to just maintain a moment of silence as we remember the lives of those who have passed before us, starting now. May their souls rest in eternal peace. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for this session of Speak Up, Uganda is Bleeding. And of course, this first of a number of sessions that's being delivered by Comrade Eric on Peaceful Revolutions Masterclass. I'd like to remind those of you who are joining us on all the platforms we're streaming on, please click on the link that is at the bottom of the video. Or if you want to join us on Zoom, just go to your browser and type in tinyurl.com/Uganda is bleeding. So I can see a few hands up. So I'd like to invite all those of you who'd like to ask questions, to engage. Eric, let's use this opportunity to engage and share your thoughts with regards to nonviolent activism, peaceful revolution, breaking down that fear, and just your thoughts around the presentation today. But also, I'd like to use this opportunity to invite Comrade Hadija, who is joining us to take over the session this afternoon, the second hour of the session, to just introduce herself, say a word or two about what you've heard, and then if you can just moderate the questions for Comrade Eric, and then we can get a useful discussion going. Thank you. Over to you, Comrade Hadija. Please make sure you're unmuted, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Comrade David. Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much for the presentation. It has been a minute. I'm so grateful for this opportunity.
Comrade Hadija, I think you might need to speak a bit closer to the microphone.
Oh, am I audible enough now?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes, I was saying it's always an honor to be back here, and always grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much, David, Dorcas, and our team, and of course, many thanks to Comrade Eric. Thank you so much for the session. It is this lot of fear that Ugandans have limiting us from standing up against the regime. It's obvious that most Ugandans are in great fear, and I don't know maybe how our people through the fear and against the dictator. Thank you so much.
Sorry, comrade, you're breaking. I don't know if it's my end, but I think your connection. We are getting in bits.
Yes, yes, it's breaking this side, so I think it's something on Comrade Hadija's side. Thank you.
What should I do?
Okay, whilst you sort that out, maybe David will handle 5 minutes of it, and then yeah, because I don't know what's happening.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, have a go and we'll let you know if it disconnects. For some reason, it seems to be waving in and out.
I don't know, and my network seems to be okay. Okay, please let me know when I break again.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes. Okay. I think I'll go straight into the giving people opportunities to. First of all, Eric asked a question. I don't know if anyone would like to reply him, but Mr. James Mugeni, you are the first to raise up your hand. I'll give you an opportunity to say something.
Thank you, Hadija. Mine is not going to be a question. I hope you are getting me.
Yes, I am.
Yes, James William Mugeni in the US. It's 9 a.m. in the morning, and I want to thank Eric for the presentation. And mine is just to reinforce what he has said using practical examples that are happening right now. The creation of fear. All Ugandans, you are aware, there's an industrial action by health workers. It started off by the allied health professionals, but now the nurses have joined. Next, the interns, doctors have joined. And now we are remaining only with the doctors to join. And as far as I'm concerned, right now, over 66 districts of Uganda hospitals have laid down tools. Now the Prime Minister has come in to threaten and have given health workers up to Monday. They have given health workers up to Monday to return to work. If not, they say they'll lose their jobs. But that has worsened the situation. I've just been attending about 2 meetings by the nurses, and then one by having another meeting coming in by the allied health professionals. The result is they are not going back, and now the threat has worsened. As I talk, those who are on the Rwanda, on the western side of Uganda, you have seen military trucks. 30 of them, that's according to eyewitnesses, 30 of them have come to Uganda full of soldiers from Rwanda. Now, nobody has an explanation, but that is fear. That is to create fear. And now you're seeing many Ugandans are discussing it. You don't know whether Uganda has been invaded or whatever. But we are talking about fear. Once people can overcome fear, because like the health workers have said now, even the emergency services are they are going to withdraw them come Monday. So 66 hospitals have already got involved and is now getting nationwide. Now, maybe something very important is how to coordinate this. Because when somebody says health workers are going to be dismissed on Monday, these are parents, these are our sons, some of them are your daughters. So how does this affect you in the community? Where is the community link in this? So I just liked the presentation because it has a lot of teaching that we Ugandans are lacking. To understand fear, Ugandans have not understood have failed to understand fear, because by bringing those 30 trucks full of soldiers, that is fear. What are they going to do in Uganda? So these are situational analysis that all of us need to do and say enough is enough. Actually, the health workers are an example of a peaceful demonstration. Nobody has shot a bullet. The hospitals are empty. Now my problem is that where has the community gone? If the hospital is empty, where have you gone? Now you need the community to rise up from within the community. So Eric, thank you for the presentation. I'm very busy. I just took up 5 minutes to talk, but thank you so much. You're welcome.
I'd like to respond. Thank you, James, for the part. And I think it's one of the most powerful things that's now happening with the strike, the hospitals. And to directly answer on your question, what can we now best do? So one is the fear. I once read the story of how can you best deal with fear. because fear is a constant. You cannot fully take it away, but you can perceive it as rain. Rain is also coming, but you can prepare for rain, for maybe using an umbrella, better clothing, or somehow you become better equipped against the rain. The rain will still be there, but you know how to deal with it. I also heard that the training, of course, is very important. When you become trained, you are better to deal with this fear, because you have experienced it within the training. People gave you the simulation of fear. So next time when you face it in real life, you know how to deal with it. And also organization also really helps to, there's bravery in numbers. When you're alone and you're oppressed, then it's way easier to become fearful. However, when you're a big group and you feel empowered with each other, you have this power with, then it's, I think, also a very important part. And I think that's also the best thing we can do now. I still see so much social media going about elections, courts, I don't know, non-relevant issues. If all of us really start sharing and create awareness about these 66 hospitals and the leadership they are taking, and we make it really personal in a way, we think about creative ways to stand in solidarity with them. Maybe we have a picture before us on the social media with "We stand with the doctors" or "We stand with the, we join." In a way, we really empower that strength in number situation. So I think they have now provided a potential spark, and based on the rest of our reactions, we can truly make it a spark, because if we react on what's happening with them, we stand with them, they will feel even more empowered, and the regime really starts getting into trouble. So I think now the most powerful we can do as in the struggle is to really focus on what's happening there and really stand with them and really create awareness of what's happening. Because I knew what was happening, but because of your insight, I didn't know how powerful it was. It's, as you told me just now, it's a really powerful initiative. So it has the potential to become a wildfire. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric, and thank you, Comrade Jim, for the coordination and everything you've done.
Comrade Hadija, we're losing you.
Again.
Something's happening to your microphone. Sorry.
Okay, can you please take time for the next 5 minutes?
Okay, I'll take over for a bit. Thank you so much, Comrade James and Comrade Eric, for your response. The fear thing is a big factor in all this, and strategies to overcome fear are definitely the most important strategies in any activist's toolkit. Sometimes I really look and wonder how people have the guts. Sometimes I personally don't have the guts to do some of the things I've seen activists doing: stand up, confront armed soldiers and personnel. But sometimes desperation drives you to doing that. And I know the people on the ground will say, well, you can talk about going out and standing up against the regime and the military, but you're distant, you're not here. We're the ones who are going to face the bullets. We're the ones who are going to face the tear gas. We're going to get arrested. We're going to have our private parts pincered and all the sorts of things that you saw Comrade Kakwenza going through. And so my question to you, Comrade Eric, before we get to the responses and thoughts from A.T. Magambo and Banasula, is how do you convince someone who is so afraid of physical, violent repression to get beyond that fear that has been drilled into them over the course of their lifetime? Because if you think of it, most Ugandans are younger than the regime. So the 7 years that the regime has been in power has been used to kind of instill in them this belief that they're untouchable and they will do whatever they need to do to keep in power. How do we get beyond that initial barrier of fear for the person who's on the ground? Thank you so much.
Thank you for the excellent question, David. So I think it's important to understand fear. How can a person become fearful? Of course, terror is very important. November massacre, 2020 November, they used extreme terror to really make people fearful. So that fear is a constant. However, there's also this idea that to do something, we need to go from 0 to the final push. We need to go from not doing anything or being virtual online to street protest, which is currently maybe the most dangerous protest we can do. However, there are so many more tactics that are very low risk. You can do them without being arrested. So we really need to find the middle ground of activism, of doing something between virtual and physical, to find ways to still resist, to still disobey. However, to not go all out and engage ourselves. Because we need to be every time we are a bit fearful and we go too far and the police can protest us again, we continue the fear. People say, see, every time we protest, we will be arrested. You see that a lot of brave protests of young students, they are tired and then they go to the protest and are directly arrested. So we should really innovate our tactics and say to the people there are more ways to disobey instead of only these dangerous parts. And then while we do it, we build the confidence, and slowly by slowly we push. However, what I also found interesting last week, you saw that Bessie was going on the street. When people are seeing consistent protest or action, also not only, of course, Bessie, but all leaders, when they see consistent protest, they start to gain inspiration and become empowered and overcome their fear. So there's a very powerful part in leadership, lead by example, that especially now so many are fearful. It's crucial that all our leaders, not only Bobby Wine, but from all levels, all our leaders, they start to lead by example, by showing low risk defiance in a way. And when people they can get inspired from that leadership and start to overcome their fear as well. So I think it's very important we do it step by step instead of one radical unleash.
Thank you so much, Comrade Eric. I think that the message is right there for those of you who are thinking of engaging people who will actually be on the ground. I think the key bits I pick out from that are incrementally chip away at the fear, so not moving from 1 to 100 in a matter of days. But also think of low risk mechanisms. And I think that's where we, as the 40 activists who are here, can start to really add value to non-violent activism or peaceful revolution. Come up with ideas, think of things that can be done, that expose the regime, that compromise them, but don't necessarily put our people on the front line and at risk. So really useful thoughts from you, Comrade Eric. I'd like to invite A.T. Magambo to share with us what his thoughts are, because we're trying to give people as much time to talk, but we also want everyone to participate. We'll give you 3 minutes to either phrase if it's a question or just your thoughts around it. So thank you so much. A.T. Magambo, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, David. Hope I'm clear.
Loud and clear.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time, and thanks for the host of this platform. Yeah, it is my first encounter with Eric, and really I've been inspired further. Personally, I've gotten an opportunity of interacting with Dorcas a bit more than any other person, I think, on this forum. And I think my words are always the same and similar, that I always emphasize, that if we are to go the non-violent avenue, we need at least to engage university students. At least in my own observation, I've realized it. I've read several revolutions over time. But you see, university students are people who have nothing to lose. And once they are on the front line, they are not like, you see, in this struggle of ours, these are other colleagues of ours, the foot soldiers. The way foot soldier is handled and arrested and taken into prison, also minus taking into legal considerations and steps, is not the very way a student can be arrested or taken into cells. So in whatever we're planning and considering to put into our program, I think it is worthy consideration or putting at the forefront the university student and the likes. Secondly, you see, in Uganda, at least I have gotten an opportunity of engaging in non-violent protests, both from the professional perspective and from the organized format. But you see, I don't know, but in most cases, you see, it fails at the inception in most cases. And you wonder, why is it really not maturing into the plan that you all vie to achieve? And in such a scenario, I pose a number of questions, and I don't know whether I can be guided, but I've realized it not once, not twice, but it happens to fail or collapse in the inception moments. And you wonder, why does it happen like that? Maybe we need much of the training in that very line, or guidance, or some more information, at least in line with how to get out of it in case it has gone astray, how to realize that it is hitting a dead end, all those nitty-gritties in a non-violent revolution. At least me personally, at least probably I need more clarity and more introductory lessons and lectures about it. Otherwise, I beg to submit.
Thank you. Excellent. I will give a short response. I also was thinking about this, and I think the most important thing we have to consider is that we should design our tactics based on the repression. Like chess, you have to think about the move of the opponent before you do your own move. And now, too often, maybe we might have been thinking about our own moves only without really calculating the repression. However, if we calculate that the police, they will be there within 10 minutes, we can organize a 5-minute action and retreat again, for example. Or we can somehow, if we know the police is there at the day, maybe we should organize in the night. So we really should make the repression central to all our tactics, and then find ways, how can we still do something based on this repression? So we innovate on to evade that repression instead of to confront it directly. So we build up the strength, we build up the numbers to eventually confront. But at the beginning, before we can confront, we first need to build ourselves more in that sense. Thank you.
Comrade Hadija, is your microphone back on?
I think so. You should please let me know if you can hear me better now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Right. Okay, thank you so much. That was Comrade Magambo, right?
Correct.
Yeah, thank you so much, Comrade Magambo. Then I'll give Comrade Banasula just an opportunity to submit your whatever you have to submit.
Okay. Okay. Am I loud and clear?
Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Comrade Adija. Second, thank you so much, Comrade Steele, Comrade Eric, for the endless effort that you really give out for the cause of change in our mother and Uganda. Thank you so much. The case for the case that we are really facing right now in our country, it's like we need to open our eyes widely. We need to open our eyes completely widely. There are so many things that have been done in order to instill fear in us. There are so many things that have been done by the dictator to instill fear in us. You see, let's look at this thing in another perspective, like the arrest of Kizza Besigye and other people. That thing is meant to instill fear. You may call it to instill fear in us. So,
Comrade Banasula, we've lost you.
Yes, please. I'm on. What I was saying is that we have forgotten that. No, I'll bring it next time. Okay. So I was saying that we have to master these people since they have been in the side pretending to be opposition. For Ugandans, let's watch. Let's relate the way some people they are being handled on the other side, and some people are being handled on This body have been.
Comrade?
Yes. You hear me?
Yeah, we had lost you, but you're back now.
Okay. For 20 years, we have been having opposition in Uganda, né? But the fruits that we Ugandans really hoped, we did not even come to half of them, to the fruits that we have really got for the past 3-4 years of His Excellency Senator Robert in the political environment in Uganda. Whenever such things they are played in face of Ugandans, like the way it went when they arrested Besigye when he was in the center of Kampala. These things, they are, for me, the way I see it, that's why I said that, let's open our minds very broadly. These things are meant to instill fear in Ugandans, whether we like it or not. These people, they are playing us. These people, they are playing us. There is no any Ugandan who can really see how this people, they mishandle the people whom we do call the so long opposition, and then someone keeps on really have interest on going to the street and do what is needed for the good of our motherland Uganda. This body are playing some other game, which though some of us we don't want to say out the truth. There is no Ugandan who can see the way the likes of Besigye are being handled on the street and they go. Whether we like it, if His Excellency Senator Robert was the one on the street, things would be very, very awkward. Even I think even some people would have lost life in the process. The way these people they are playing us, we need to be very careful. They know that anytime they are getting out, they know that anytime Ugandans are going to rise up, and they do what? They are pushed out of our leadership, our nation's leadership.
Sorry, Comrade Kanasula, you have 30 seconds, please.
Okay. So this case of let's check it. There is yesterday the news broke out that Rwanda soldiers, they were brought in silently in Uganda. Then this morning, I don't know if you heard the news that broke out that Mr. Chibalama, the one whom we got the party, who gave us the party to the party as our national unity platform party, that he has on his side and his colleagues that they have set up the other group to lead the party, to lead the national unity platform. I think these people, they have tried to divert us since yesterday that news broke out that Rwandese soldiers, they have come in Uganda without no one knowing the intention why these people they are coming in Uganda. These people, they have tried to divert us because they know that we, the national unity platform, we always watchful and we do always bring everything to the public as it is. So let's be watchful. We have to monitor, though this UPDF has come out and then tried to divert us, that there is something like I don't know how they call it, that is between Uganda, it is between East African region. The soldiers of different countries in East African region that they are going to combine to do their whatever is it in Jinja somewhere there.
Thank you so much, Honorable Banaspa. Sorry, Comrade.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, but I would like to give an opportunity to other comrades to say something. Thank you
so much. Welcome.
Okay, Comrade Joseph Senyonjo. Please unmute yourself.
Great, thank you so much, Comrade Duja, Comrade Eric, David, and Dorcas and Joe. Thank you very much for keeping this platform going. I'm sorry I joined a bit late, but thank you so much, Eric, for your presentation on overcoming fear and all the discussion about violence. I particularly liked the fact that Mr. Mugeni talked about the hospitals that are taking some industry action. And when we are talking about overcoming fear and how we actually get people going, I think this is a good, when people have initiatives like this, we should somehow support them and encourage them and reinforce them. That Prime Minister's statement that we're going to replace you if you don't, return to work by Monday, we as a diaspora, we should find a way to communicate with these people and support them because basically call the regime's bluff. I mean, there's no way they can replace all the doctors and lose their nurses within, like if they lay it down all over the country, they lay it down their own. So some of those things we need to find a way to communicate and support them, and perhaps even if it means financial incentives, I mean, like supporting them through our channels so that, they can sustain the strike or whatever for as long as possible with some kind of financial support. Say, you guys, this regime is call the bluff. They cannot replace you. Before, a few years ago, doctors also tried to go on strike. Museveni threatened that he was going to replace them with Cuban doctors. So this is not the first time that the regime has threatened to replace doctors and nurses. But when these kind of things happen, we need to step on it and somehow have some kind of communication channel with people that are trying to do something and encourage them and call the bluff of the regime. I like Eric's recommendation of stand with the doctors. I think, yes, we should adopt that in our tweets, highlight this situation, highlight this industry action. The United States, the UK, the EU, the World Bank all give a lot of money for the health sector. And the health sector is a miss. So we should say we stand with the doctors and highlight what's happening. These doctors on strike because they're not getting paid, the conditions are very poor, and use the tag, we stand with the doctors. So I think that was a great suggestion. In addition to that, I think the students, Mr. Magambo said, yes, the students are very much, we need to somehow tap into the students' population, encourage them. I know that Docas and group had already started working with them. And I think young Mandela is here. And of course, they were arrested. I don't know what, perhaps we can get an update on that, but that's definitely a very powerful constituency. Thank you so much. I'll stop here. I know the time is limited.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Comrade Joseph.
I'd love to respond to Joseph also in a minute, because I agree on this power of these hospitals and the doctors. Also, I now realize what you're saying, Joseph, about the donor support. Like the resistance, they've been focused about the political parties, and the donors, or maybe Ugandans at large, they might be feeling that the political parties are too political. They're too not part of them. They're either with them or against them. However, doctors, students, you really engage in professions or in groups that are much more easy to connect with. And I think also way more powerful with the donors to align with them. We've seen it with lawyers, also Kakwenza as writers. And then if you use the profession as the identity, that really helps to create global connection with also regional support. Then the communication channels, excellent idea. Every time we should see a spark, it should be able that all of us, we get together, we think about it. And in that way, we build a network of the genuine activists, and always try to find ways to support each other. So I don't know what's the best way, if just a WhatsApp group or something else. But I think it's an excellent idea to really start engaging these doctors as soon as possible to reinforce our experiences and the organization with them, to help them, and also to involve in strategic planning. What's the next steps? How can we be involved? How can we expand the campaign? So I think it's an excellent idea. We should really maybe move the revolution from parties, elections, everything around political allegiance to professional and profession alliances. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Maybe shall ask Comrade James William again to help us. Since he has been coordinating, maybe he can help out, create a group or something that can help us to engage the doctors and see how we can help, and other professional groups. Thank you so much. I'll give a chance to Comrade Simon Achina or Achina, and I'm sorry. Kindly unmute yourself. Simon Achina. Maybe he's not ready. Comrade Swali Rokwago. Kindly unmute. Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe
so
you
much.
might want to be a little bit louder.
Okay, let me remove these headphones.
That's better.
Am I louder?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much for this meeting. Actually, I would like to thank all the comrades who have made some contributions. Okay, I'm like, people do what? Do engage in peaceful protests. But we are dealing with a junta that hijacked those peaceful protests into bloodshed. Look at the way they are mishandling Dr. Chiza Besigye. So if at all Kampala is now secure, actually, if, let me say, Uganda is so much involved in protests, let us take those protests to Mbale. Let those protests go to Jinja. Let those protests go to Rukungiri. Let those protests go to Mbarara. Let those protests go to Kayunga. It will be very difficult. Actually, how many policemen does Museveni have in the whole of Uganda? How many soldiers? Actually, I'm also getting some information that many soldiers have spent months without paying them. Why don't we exploit that? So this Kateni Southern SFC army is the one unleashing what? Terror to Ugandans. We should devise ways of how to deal with that what? That militia called SFC. And the only way is to overwhelmingly. Bobi Wine talked about that. Ugandans should overwhelmingly go to what? To vote. So we should overwhelmingly mobilize. Let us call it a 1 million march to Kampala, a 1 million peaceful protests to Jinja, a 1 million peaceful protests in Acholi, Rango, and elsewhere. Failure to do that, Museveni will continue using these lucky lousy policemen and soldiers who are even spending months without being what? Being paid. It's only using this militia called what? SFC. I've heard of people talking of the Rwandanese soldiers who were brought to Uganda. Those ones are going to Congo. They are going to Congo under their umbrella, something called M23. So let us not be overtaken by those what? Those Rwandanese soldiers. They are going to Congo. Let us mobilize Ugandans. Actually, opposition here in Kampala, they are allowed to go on radio stations, on television. But you go beyond Kampala. You saw what happened to Bobi Wine when he went to Mbale. RDCs cannot allow them. So if they cannot allow you on radio, what other means of communication can you use to communicate to people in Chena Mukaka? Those are the things we should be talking about. You happen to go to the village, people know nothing about what you are talking about. How can you reach Mr. Eric? How can you reach to those people in those remote areas? People in Karamoja being killed by the army. That is SFC. But whoever comes out to say that such and such is happening in Karamoja, an accident can claim is what? His life. How can you mobilize those people in Karamoja of the need to deal with this junta regime? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Lukwag. Did you want to say something, Eric?
Yes, perfect. Because indeed, I was inspired by I think the amazing suggestions of Swali about one, overwhelming. Of course, we need to realize there's only the 1% oppressing Uganda. There are so many Ugandans that can easily overwhelm the protest. And again, this repression. Kampala is the most besieged city because they know people are ready for revolution. So they act about any small protest. They have these informers on the borders, of course, they go directly to suppress it. They know how dangerous Kampala can be, but they cannot be everywhere at once. So if you plan, don't only plan in Kampala, plan in 10 cities at the same time, because they cannot be there at every same time. This was exactly how Sudan became successful, because they realized the urban areas are too repressive. So we're going to mobilize outside. We're going to mobilize in the night, and we're going to overwhelm the police because they cannot be there at any place at all. So that was really, I think, the key factor, that we should not concentrate so much, but really decentralize our protest and also really focus on the rural protest. A good point what you're saying, how can we reach out to them? A lot of mobilizing us on social media, a lot of information on TV, but how can we make sure that our systems are in place? As soon as the activists get information on social media or WhatsApp, they directly go into the village. They talk physically. I think the physical aspect really needs to return, to not be dependent on social media because the internet can be blocked, but really become physical again, to really start moving house by house, start calling in any way, really make that connection. When there's information about the protest, we start informing everybody around us as soon as possible, because they again can inform others about it. The three main parts when you are doing strategic planning are the human resources, financial resources, and use of time. So a lot of those engaged with elections and the courts, they are using those resources for non-confrontational methods. If we start using all those resources and the time focused on direct confrontation, peaceful protest, boycott, strikes, any form of more revolutionary activity, it will have results, because Ugandans will see how effective it is and they will adapt, they will take over. And if the numbers grow, if really about 10% of Ugandans start using it, that's already the number we need to have the victory within a revolution. So excellent suggestions, and I would advise you to start your own masterclass as well.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Meanwhile, we have an opinion poll going on morale and hope for peaceful change. There is a question there: on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your morale and sense of optimism of using peaceful means to deliver a free democratic Uganda? Kindly vote. If you haven't voted, we need your opinion. Comrade David, you had something to say?
Thank you so much, Comrade Hadija. I just wanted to pick up on a comment that was posted by Florence on the chat, which I found quite interesting. Politicians need to stop surprising Ugandans with protests. People need to be included in the preparation. I think that's absolutely right. If you're going to drive some kind of action, then you need to involve people, because people need to prepare themselves physically, mentally, psychologically, and everything to involve themselves in protest. But one of the things that Florence touched on is something that we're quite keen to do. The point around politicians need to start actively participating in non-violent awareness and training. Over the course of the year since we started People Power Academy, it is evident that although people say the word non-violent activism, action, not many people understand what it actually means. And this is something that me, Joe, Dorcas have been discussing with Comrade Eric around not just the politicians, but leadership. So leadership at whatever level across the opposition, to get them to understand what it actually means to be non-violent action. So it's good that you've pointed that out, Florence. It's something that we're considering. We're definitely thinking about how we can repackage this for the leaders in the opposition, so that they understand what it actually means, rather than just having a word that they use just to score marks on jargon, political jargon.
But also the way Eric is delivering these sessions is to empower you as trainers of trainers. Train the trainer sessions so that you can also go out and engage and start teasing out some of these things from the people you engage. So do not hesitate to use the knowledge you have, and you'll gain over the course of the next few weeks to engage leadership at whatever level. So thank you so much. Over to you, Hadija. Thank you.
I want to add one thing about Florence. Excellent suggestion, because indeed with the more Robadoba style people are not even aware that you're there, and then you're arrested already. So people don't have time to react, and therefore every spark is put out. The second part that Ugandan leaders have done and then felt is that they said, tomorrow we have the march, or within 3 days we have the march. But in a way they say, they make themselves dependent on leading that march. So people, they are ready to, okay, we are going to the streets, but they are really dependent on Besigye leading it or Bobby Wine leading it. And then of course, it's very easy for the police to react. They just put the leader on house arrest. They make sure the leader doesn't come out, and the march is a failure from the beginning. So instead of saying we're going to lead the march or prepare with me to march to a place, they should give people time to prepare and to organize, but also really make them independent from the leadership of the leaders. So just move from wherever you go, find a local group that you can mobilize with and start with those numbers, but don't make the people dependent on the leader being there, because it's very easy to counter by the regime.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I'm going to be giving 1.5 minutes to the rest of the comrades so that we all get a chance, because we have less than 15 minutes now. Okay, Comrade Simon, you said you're ready now. Can you unmute?
Okay, all right. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Am I audible enough?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you very much, comrade, for your contributions. It is a little bit educating. It's so good, interesting, most especially for the facilitator. I've got some good points. I am Simon Peter Ashia from Karamoja. I base in Kotido district as my home. Basing on the question that Eric has given us for the strategies, for the mechanism, which we are supposed to maybe to handle or to expose the dictators' atrocities in your country. I base majorly on our side, purposely on Karamoja region. There are very many things that are supposed to be used, most especially for us in Karamoja, what is hiding much information that the media houses are not there. We don't have media houses, and few electronics people who are having phones are also very few, and even cameras are not there. This has come to like last week, part one, when the minister for Karamoja Affairs was having a meeting in Karamoja. The Karamojong wanted to clash. In fact, they were even clashing with security. They were even exchanging bitter words because the community was getting concerned on what's happening. They told her, what are you doing to us? You are killing our people, you are killing, most especially women were like saying, we are killing our husbands, you are killing our children, you are leaving us widow, you, the government of Museveni. Why do you impose on something which is affecting to the innocent people of Karamoja because of their resources? Why can't you leave our resources so that it can help us survive? They told the minister that we have known that you guys, you have your major interest in our land, just to remove what is there and you leave and you dump us. They went to the exchange of even some of the Karashonas were being arrested because they were bitterly exchanging bitter words with the minister, with the soldiers, with the security, and that's how, as for now, most of the security of the regions of Karamoja are getting aware of what is happening because the government is being played on, they're just playing on them every time and again because of what is going on right now. That's why a majority of them, they refuse to carry meeting in the barracks because when the the government official comes for meetings, they tend to tell the people that we are having meetings in the barracks, and people are refusing because people are saying that, why do you want to take us in the barrack? Why do you want to have a meeting in barrack? Can't you have meetings in our centers so that everybody to join? Do you want to have meetings in barrack so that you can put all of us inside? As for now, the young people, most especially the youth, are not the warriors.
Comrade Simon, you have 30 extra seconds, please. Comrade Simon? I think we lost him. I'll give Desmond
At their home because
kindly conclude. We had lost you.
Oh, sorry.
Kindly conclude within 10 seconds, please.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Comrade Simon from Kalmaja. Your concerns have been noted. Comrade Desmond Kato, and unmute.
Thank you. Let me get your name right.
Hadija, yes. You have 1.5 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you, Eric. One of the action plan I'm doing now here. I love sweet potatoes from Uganda. I love matoke from Uganda. I've stopped buying them. That is my protest and boycott. I wish every Uganda stop buying matoke. And two, I just want to ask Eric, how do we, should we continue going into by-elections, or we just now have to stop going into these elections? Thank you.
Eric, you muted. Unmute yourself.
Thank you, Adija. Excellent questions. And I would say it's all about human resources, financial resources, and time. As long as these are being wasted on battles we will lose, and we know they are losing, is it not wasted resources, or can we better allocate them to something with more success in? So personally, I would say boycott the things we know we will lose and allocate those resources to something we can actually win. So more the boycott, more the strike, more the protest. So yes, I would say boycott elections until we have liberation, because we get our hopes up, but every failure is not only pointless, it's also destructive, because every time we have a failure, people lose trust within our capacity to succeed. So victory is we should always strive for a victory whenever we engage with the oppressor. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Young Mandela, please unmute.
Oh, thank you, Adija.
Okay.
Now, I want to say and inform others that Uganda has a population of 100%, and it has a 1% which uses the 4% to oppress the 90%. And there is a 5% of me and everyone on this platform and other people who speak about change and liberation. That is the 5% who have woken up and they are trying to wake up the 90%. But it happens that the 1% uses the 4%, which is the military, the police, and all the other security organs to suppress the 5%, which is trying to rise and wake up the 90%. So the moment you have the 90% working, this is going to be very easy. We shall not even have to come back here, speak a lot. The thing will have to work out itself. Now I want to say that the brain is the standard of a human being. So if we can control people and inform them that maybe changes tomorrow and make them their brains prepared for change, we make them feel change is coming psychologically before even we make it physically. So this could be a very, very good tactic, because it is what the dictator is using. He controls people psychologically. When you speak to people on ground, they're like, let's wait for God maybe to take up the dictator. Some are starting to say maybe let the sun come. The sun will be easier to uproot out of power. But I want to tell them this is wrong. It cannot happen. And who controls media controls the generation now, the people, the young people. They use media so much, but it happens that on Twitter, the young people are so in love with nudes. They are on TikTok dancing. They only follow such stuff. They don't come in for sensitive information and information that makes sense to them and the liberation of the country. So we have to first control their minds and change their mindset towards Museveni, because they believe Museveni is not something you can just wake up and deal with. They believe Museveni can kill everybody, which is wrong. And they even feel that Museveni has a lot of army and soldiers that he can even send to other countries for peace keeping. So I want us to have the people feel that change is coming psychologically, just like the way we had it.
Sorry, comrade, you have 10 seconds.
The people power movement. Yes?
You have a few seconds to the end of your minute.
Let them believe change is coming tomorrow, just like the people power movement had started initially. And we can have people power movement again. Political party affiliation is killing the struggle. We should act beyond political affiliation. So we should have political parties put aside. People power movement should rise, and people will have to believe change is coming psychologically, and it automatically they will have to rise up and come to the streets. Thank you.
Thank you so much, young Mandela. Eric, unmute.
I have sorry again. I have a question. I personally have the time to stay a bit longer because I will be very interested to hear about all the other questions. Is it possible to extend a bit to also give space to the others?
David?
Yes, I won't be around, but I'm sure we should be able to hold this on for the purposes of getting people to engage.
I also don't mind taking longer.
And a short thing to young Mandela. I think what he was saying about people power, that's the solution. People power was exactly what we needed. The people power, the movement, because it united all of Ugandans. It was not wasting resources on battles we would lose. It focused on empowering and mobilizing the nation. So I think people power is still, people power the movement instead of the parties is still the solution to what we need for the liberation in Uganda.
Okay, thank you. Comrade Iga, unmute yourself.
Excuse me, Comrade Hadija, just before you hand over to Comrade Iga, I just wanted to share the results of the poll
Okay.
for those who might have to leave at exactly 4 o'clock. So we're going to share the poll results. So that's, first of all, thank you to all those of you who participated. Of the 34 of you, 36 of you, about 70% of you expressed a score of over the neutral, so neither motivated nor demotivated. That's a really good starting place. So 70 of you actually believe are more on the positive side of high morale and actually believe that peaceful revolutions can deliver change. So you are the kind of ambassadors of the message that we're trying to preach and the message and the lessons that we're learning. For those of you who feel significantly deflated, demotivated, like we said, because of these long struggles, there will be periods of demotivation, disillusionment, being de-energized. The most important thing is you continue to keep being engaged. If it means that you just need to take time out and do other things, focus on other things, and then keep engaged with the struggle in whatever shape or form. We intend to run these sessions over the course of the coming weeks and reassess where you all feel. So the hope and the target for the likes of Eric and those of you who are positive is to move people up that spectrum so that we've got a close to 100% high morale, highly motivated with high morale and confident that peaceful revolution can deliver change. So thank you. That's it from me. Over to you, Comrade.
One small addition to David, also amazing to see the morale, but also one of the things that brings the morale higher most quickly is victory. Even small victories, like now the the protest in the hospitals, if we can turn it into a victory, already them starting as a victory, every victory will exponentially increase our morale and momentum. So if we really prevent any failures from happening and only focus on these victories and make them happen, it will explode very soon. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I'll give a chance to, are you already unmuted? Comrade Godfrey Iga, sorry.
Thanks very much, Hadija. Good evening, good afternoon, Eric. Good afternoon, David. I've got 2 points. One of them is to answer Eric's point, or maybe we should abandon these by-elections. But my view is, I might not be right entirely, is we need these by-elections, and we should go there not to expect the victory from those by-elections, but to more of, that's when we get to educate those people which we can't reach during normal times. Because in normal circumstances, if you look at Omoro, we could not get our activists to go in those areas and they will come out alive. So during the by-elections, while the attention is in most places, they can go there, legally, they are canvassing for votes, yeah, they are campaigning. And we get to educate some people who don't know what's going on, and the best way to teach them that their power matters. Yeah, they got the power to change the situation in Uganda. The second point I have is with our brothers and sisters in the health sector and education. Victory is never cheap, and it's not given on a plate. Now, they should stop being intimidated by the regime, because they are protesting from the promise the regime has been making every time of their pay conditions. And every time they've been sold by their leaders. Now, as people, they should have courage and not be intimidated, continue with the protest and strike. It might be pain, but people will join them. If I have 2 meals a day, I can cut down to 1, so I help my brothers and sisters. That's how protests work. But when you give in through intimidation by these viral people like Mururi, who is that minister, it doesn't work, and you never get victory. You never get what you want. They keep promising, they buy up a few of your leaders, and you stay down to zero, because it costs the doctors and even teachers a lot of money from home to work. Some have to work to earn some meager wages which don't cover anything at all. So it's worth staying with the protest until they achieve the victory. Their victory is everyone's victory. They will be helped along the way. Don't say, oh, I'm gonna starve. That can never happen. People do value the services of teachers and doctors, and they will not let them starve, or any help they need, it will be given by people. That's how protests and revolutions work. We will be there, we will help, we will join in whichever we can. So have courage and stay the course. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Iga.
Thank you.
Eric, you have something to say about that?
Excellent. The first part, I think, is the crucial. Can we not make use of these by-election, the nomination period, that we can freely mobilize and just get the numbers? This is, of course, true. We can go into areas. However, we go into those areas only in the controlled moments of the state. So the state, we play by the rules of the state. And I have not seen, I've seen enormous crowds, enormous mobilization during this nomination campaigns. I remember Arua or now Omoro. You see all these people getting out for hope, but because it's only in this controlled moment by the state, they don't turn into protest crowds. You lose, they turn into their house again at the moment that it's not allowed by the state. So I think even for smaller crowds, it will be better to stop playing by the rules of the state, for example, with the by-elections, and find alternative ways. Otherwise, we will always let ourselves be dictated by when the state allows us to mobilize. So I still think it's better to find ways to mobilize outside state allowed moments than the by-elections. Secondly, about the health sector, I think also one of the weaknesses of a strike is that it's based on the pay conditions. So now the teachers or the nurses, they are fighting for the wages, but this is of course very limited. When the state realize how dangerous this strike is, they just pay and then it settles. The small campaign is over. So we should also really connect as soon as possible. So we make it bigger than just a strike for the wages. We make it part of the general part, because in that case, we empower the nurses, the strike in hospitals, but they also empower again the general movement, because the regime will always try to isolate different campaigns, different groups fighting for their own interest. But if we can align all those interests into one Ugandan interest, that's the moment that you can again move towards the revolution. So those are my two thoughts based on the ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Comrade Joseph Senyanjo, unmute.
Thank you so much, Comrade Hadija, and Eric, thank you so much for that last point. Let me start with that, making the strike a broader, using this opportunity to make it broader. And as you said, we could talk about the health services, the social services, and make it a much broader, say, you start with the doctors, but, of course, it touches on health services which affect everyone. Our mothers are dying when giving birth and all the different things. People don't have access, don't have medicines in hospitals. Get the community to engage and support the doctors. So that is my submission on that. And then the other point was between you, Eric, and Young Mandela talked about people power. I think that is actually very, very important, that we actually use the movement, people power movement, which was how this whole thing started. And they moved into NUP only because they wanted to contest it in elections, and none of the parties were willing to have Bobby Wine as join them. So, and in order to campaign or to be part of the election, they could not. The movement could not be part of the election. So, but after having gone through this, as you said, these elections are not meaningful. Perhaps we could have used more of a people power movement as a uniting factor of all the opposition forces to really kind of take the regime, not under the party labels. I think that's a very good point. And now, I want to point out the fact that Ugandans in general, we're talking about non-violence protests and activism. Ugandans are generally not violent people. And I think we ought to start, as we talked about when we're talking about the pillars of support and how do you get around the regime, talk about educating people that, okay, if you're going to go to the streets, this is what you should not do. You should perhaps not, because basically the regime puts saboteurs. How do you identify the saboteurs? I think Eric, you mentioned that before. Somehow more training around those people who are going to come and ban tires and do a whole type of things. Okay, tell them, okay, please avoid certain things which the regime can use to label you as violent, maybe banning tires or something like that. We have to kind of brainstorm about how to educate our people that once you go on the streets, the regime is going to try to portray you as violent, but, please, one, identify the saboteurs, and two, maybe don't ban tires, don't do this, don't do that. I think that messaging should be very clear. And now, finally, I just want to say that we in the diaspora, we're talking about fear, but we in the diaspora, a lot of us are basically comfortable at home. We're not really doing very much in terms of going to protests or kind of engaging. And so on that point, there is a protest today in Boston, and I think it's going to be broadcast on KKTV and maybe Facebook. It's against the Mhozi project. It's maybe about 3 hours from now. I mean, it's in Boston, and it will be broadcast. And if you can go on there and express your, comment, whatever, that would be helpful. You know, the Muhoozi project, as I think Muhyang Manda was saying, some people are saying, well, maybe you should wait for Muhoozi. No, that's just, we know Museveni wants a dynasty. So Muhoozi, he controls the SFC, which is terrorizing our people, which is abducting our people. We're not waiting for Muhoozi. We don't want Muhoozi. So this protest today is about the Muhoozi project, and we should support and engage, you know, even if we're far away, somehow find a way to kind of have our voices heard through maybe commenting or whatever. So around the fear thing, we in the diaspora also have to overcome our fear, get more involved, organize, go protesting, write letters to legislators, and do all that. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Comrade Joseph. I'll briefly give an opportunity to Papa Bana.
Yes, Khadija, thank you, my sister. You hear me?
Yes, please.
And thank you, Eric, very much. I hope you remember my, I told you to look for Tracy Chapman about her song. Don't you know, talking about the revolution songs in whispers, you know. Concerning our country, Uganda, thank you very much for the motivation and teaching about this non-violence operation, because we need it, because presently, like you said, if we start by supporting these people who are striking, you know, it starts small. You know, what happened in Tunisia, there was this boy Bouazizi who was a street vendor, and he was selling tomatoes. So he came pushing his cart with tomatoes, and he tried to put his stand on the street. So this woman from the city council of Tunis told him, "Hey, you can't sell tomatoes here because you're not allowed to do any street vending." But he told the lady, "I'm the breadwinner at home, and my wife is supposed to deliver. She's pregnant." The woman refused and kicked the tomatoes of Bouazizi rolling on the street. What Bouazizi did was he touched himself up. He put petrol on his head and he touched himself up. It was a trigger that told the Tunisian people that now it's enough. They sent Ben Ali packing. I don't know what happened to Ben Ali. Ugandans today, we are just maybe sitting on a ticking time bomb. Let's just support our teachers, because I'm also from the teaching industry. I have been in Uganda with my wife supporting schools, and I know the situation a Ugandan teacher is going through. If a Ugandan teacher tells you that he spent 6 months without being paid, these people, they don't even earn $20 in a month, but still this money she or he doesn't have. They have their own families. They have to live on a daily basis, and presently, when everything is just skyrocketed, nobody can support to afford a border. You can't afford anything, and now you tell a teacher to go and tighten your belt. Things are getting hard. Hey, let us support these people, please. And it's not only teachers and nurses and doctors, people, policemen, army men within the UPDF. All these servants within the government, because the government presently is bankrupt. Uganda doesn't have any cent. All the money they have themselves, the clan. Museveni and his brother, they have all the money under their beds in all currencies, yen, whatever, Europe, dollars, whatever currency. They have the money at home. But they are now trying to force Ugandans on the wall, as you saw. But what's going on in Uganda is happening here on our border here, Russia against Ukraine. It's Machiavelli. Machiavelli said, if you want to stick to power, use all the methods in the book. That's why you see violence is going to continue. They know that if you shoot one, the rest will run away. We have to get over this fear, people. Just tell our people, let those who have put down their tools within the health ministry and the education not to go back home. Let them stay at home. Let's organize ourselves here from the diaspora and coordinate with Dr. Mugenya or whatever to try and make a small basket to help these people out for the next 6 months. If we just continue 6 months, teachers striking, doctors striking, the soldiers striking, the police striking, the regime of the devil will fall down. Thank you very much, and the struggle continues.
Okay, thank you so much, Papa. We have Comrade James, you had something to say? William Mugeni.
Yes, I just want.
Please unmute. Comrade William.
Janet.
Comrade William, kindly.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much for giving me a second opportunity. I've had people who want to support. The support basically is you to rally your people behind the strike. It might not be financial, it is moral support, it is to encourage, because this is an essential service. I mean, let me just tell you the opposite of the two. Soldiers are dehumanized, they are trained to kill. We health workers, we are trained to save life. Now, when you see health workers coming out of the hospital, behaving in a dehumanized way, we are at our worst. And like I have told you, it's not about to end. Nabanja has annoyed the health workers, Muruli Mukasa has annoyed the health workers, and even the little service they were providing, which is emergency, is being withdrawn on Monday. So you are going to have the situation across Uganda. Whether you are here in the diaspora, it might be your relative. Now, the big picture is, don't blame the health workers, but ask why. Ask why the industrial action. And to be sincere, I think the last speaker has just mentioned it. They don't have money to pay the health workers. And I have told the health workers, personally, I've been communicating to my colleagues that let's change it from salaries. You can't tell me you want a salary to offer service in Uganda. Where? How do you capture people like the little Lanyas treated in Uganda? Yes, strike with an aim of liberating the country and saving money which we are spending on the military, unnecessary expenditures, so that we can all have a share. If you're a health worker and you're concerned as a health worker, the person whom you want to treat is always sick because of poverty. And this poverty has been created as a tool of administration. So you as a health worker who understands the disease process, can you serve the nation? The health workers can liberate Uganda in 1 week if we stand behind them. Thank you for listening to me. I salute you all.
Okay, thank you. You've heard from him. Do whatever you can do from where you are. Talk to your people in the sector so that they join. I'll give Janet a minute, then we close. Kindly unmute.
Thank you so very much, comrades, and I greet you all. I want to start right from what Comrade William has talked about, that he mobilizing health workers. And this I have seen practically. We had a young boy called Rubanga Kenechui who was really mobilizing health workers to strike because of the bad conditions that they were going through. But as I speak right now, he has been pocketed by the regime. I saw pictures of him meeting Honorable Todwong. He was invited to Rachitura. So usually we have a problem with our leaders who come up and seem to be speaking about bringing change. We have the problem of the regime that usually, will pocket them, and we have to find a way of circumventing such things. But also I want to add my voice on the issue of the by-elections, because over and over and again, I have seen, yes, we go into by-elections. We saw what happened in Kayunga. We have seen what happened in Omoro sub-county in the last frequent days. So sometimes I feel we need to change the approach. Going for a by-election is a good space to make our point known and to make our party popular, that look here, we are fighting for a regime change. We need change to bring out the ills of the NRM and to mobilize people on the one general cause of bringing change. But then when it comes to the real election day, I just feel we need to just stop going to the polls and stop casting our votes, use the space to campaign, make our party popular. But when it comes to legitimizing these people, we should just back off, because they are not going to let us take the victory. They will not. And by going into an election, we are legitimizing and saying that we agree with constitutionalism of the country, which we all know is a sham way of, is sham democracy. So really my thoughts have to be around that. And those are really the thoughts I want to ask Eric to think deeply through. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. Then Super Dawn, you'll be the last one. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. Actually, as I join the fellow comrades to stand in solidarity with the industrial revolution that is going on into our country, I also call upon other Ugandan employees, especially public employees, for instance, the police, that they are underpaid, to join the health workers and the teachers, also the other security agencies. I heard that these prison workers, they get around 300,000 in this time of Uganda, where is facing too much inflation. Actually, instead, they should also try to put down the tools. Other than defending the dictator, they should also put down the tools, because they also have children to take to school. They also have other things that to take care of. Instead of, again, arresting people who are fighting for them, they should also know that they have a right for a better Uganda, for also them to understand that Uganda belongs to them. If you look at these developed countries democratically, when there is such a concern that is public, you will see all the security agencies, especially the police, they put down their tools and instead they support people who are protesting. So I just call upon, my call here is to call upon the security agencies, because it is very true that they are paid, but they are the ones that they put on the front line. See how they are frontlining them into Congo, Somalia, and everywhere. They are the ones that they are taken there, they are killed, they are not compensated, and so on. So instead, they should also lay down their tools, because the issue of Uganda is not just for health workers. Actually, it is for all of us. Thank you so much. I want to use strictly 1 minute that you have given me. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, pardon. Yes, Dorcas, please.
Thank you so much, comrades, for all your contribution. Comrade Hadija, thank you so much. By the way, for those who do not know, Comrade Hadija is all the way from Netherlands, the UK chapter, no?
No, Netherlands, Belgium chapter.
Sorry, Belgium chapter. Yes, thanks for the correction. Comrade Hadija, could we please have your final submission before we hear from Eric? Thank you.
Well, I would like to thank everyone that is always consistently joining us to peacefully demonstrate and show our dissatisfaction to the regime. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for having me, Comrade Eric. Thank you so much for this great lecture. It has been so insightful and educative. I hope we have more numbers next time. Please invite your colleagues, tell them to join our class, because I mean, it's us who attend such classes that are going to educate the rest. Like Comrade Achina said, they don't have this kind of opportunities in the northern Uganda. So probably if we have more people like him going and teaching people on the ground about what is going on, so I think we will have more people informed, and it is of great help to the struggle. So thank you so much, Dorcas, David, and everyone. I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much. It's always a great joy working with you. Thank you so much, and hope to see you again. And yes, the lectures, this masterclass is really powerful. For those that haven't had a chance to speak, you will have a chance next week where we will be having Eric talk to us, not talk to us, teach us, let us come get equipped and be empowered. Thank you so much, Comrade Hadija. We will hear from Eric before we close with the national anthem. Thank you.
Yes.
I think Comrade, was it Joe, said he wanted to say something about.
Okay, thank you so much. Comrade Joe, you have a few minutes. Apologies for that. And then we'll hear from Eric in closing. Or we can hear from Eric and then we'll hear from Joe. Thank you so much.
Shall we hear from Eric first?
It's okay, go on.
I'm happy to wait.
Go on.
Perfect.
I should. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Comrade Hadija, Comrade Delkus, and Comrade Eric. I would just like to speak about the plan. We've spoken about supporting our allied health professionals. It's really, really important. Last time we organized Twitter Spaces to support industry action, and I really think it's incumbent upon all of us again to support our people. And let me just underscore this. This is a pivotal moment. What is happening is unprecedented. And let's just build on this momentum. What could happen is even the other groups that have for a long time been deceived and manipulated by the dictator, I think are now going to have the courage to join this group, because for once, I think they're showing seriousness. And I think the threats that were issued by Nabanja, Moruli, and the rest have backfired. So what is going to happen? I really think these people are energized, resolved, and let's mobilize people across the country. Speak to your people. If there is no medicine, there is just, if there is no medicine, death, there is just an assured death. Anyway, these hospitals have been nothing but death traps. But now it's even going to be worse. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think the fear factor now is going to be overcome. Teachers are very, despondent. Soldiers are despondent. All categories of people are just living in fear. But now I think when they know that a group is now at the forefront, the others are going to get courage and calm. How will they know when we stand behind them? So we're organizing a Twitter space tomorrow. And we are going to relay this across the different platforms, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Please mobilize people to attend, but also speak to your people in the villages to support these people to understand the cause. That is very, very important. Thank you very much. Over to you, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I think I made a crucial insight in this masterclass today, is that we've been focusing so much on the political parties as the leaders of the organization. However, of course, then also comes elections. It's an identity part of the political parties. But I realize how much potential these things like the teachers and the nurses have. So I would also ask if you have the contact. I would love to connect with them to also share because I've been sharing with the political leaders with the tactics, the planning, but maybe.
Can you join us tomorrow in the Twitter space?
I will
give your opinion.
Yeah, I will try to join and also to think, because if we can also connect to them, also share the training, share the non-violence, share the planning, we can maybe really innovate the struggle.
Thank you.
And I would also, so if we can really start making the revolution about professions instead of the political identities, it becomes much easier to unite. It's very difficult if you can only belong to one party, but you can have, of course, you can overlap with the professions. So maybe professions are also a very good way to overcome these political divides we now see. And that is it for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eric. We've actually had a great session. For those that have missed, I am sure you're going to have time and catch up on these lectures. This is very important. These are the first basic steps that we are taking to liberate our nation and it has to take all of us. We must want this. We must want to be free. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you've been equipped today, and there is more, you know, so come prepared next week. Thank you so much, guys. If we could prepare for the anthem, and also there will be Twitter space at some point today. James will share that on his handle. I've not been able to get hold of Dr. James. I think he said there's one tomorrow. Yes. So that will be shared on the platform at some point. Thank you so much, guys. I'll unmute everybody and let us have the anthem, and we'll see you again next Saturday. Before I do so, I guess let me unmute everybody and make sure that do you all have the mic? People power.
Our power.
Power.
People power.
Our power.
Great. Yes. So we are going to have them.
Our power.
Beautiful.
Our power.
Oh, Uganda, may God uphold thee. We lay our future in thy hand. United, faithful, liberty, together we'll always stand.
Thank you. People power.
Our power.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.